hit a car, or you just hit a car. It's like, oh gosh, that's just making me more nervous.
I think they just got that nervous part of the camera.
Oh, okay.
Let's see if we're. But they might not heard it. All right. I'm going to check it on my phone and see if it's up and working, see if it's live.
All right.
Anybody in this chat yet? Let's see if they can hear us. All right, it's up. We're live.
All right.
So who's here? Who's in the chat? Make sure. I'll turn it up on my phone real fast. Make sure y'all can hear us good. All right, perfect. All right, we're in. So we're going to start doing these periodically. Probably, I want to do them weekly. I don't know if we're going to have enough people to do these weekly. Me and Xavier was just talking about it. So we might circle around and have to interview people 2 or 3 different times, but they're all not going to be live. We're just going to do this first one live because I have a schedule that can accommodate doing stuff whenever I want to, and so does Xavier. Xavier has nowhere to be because he can't drive yet, so it's easy to get him here.
We're getting there, though.
That being said,
as far as driving,
episode 1, Xavier started practicing driving today. So Xavier, tell us how your first experience was driving the minivan.
It was a little stressful, but it's like jiu-jitsu, you do it enough and then you get used to it.
So first off, what's the top speed you got to?
It wasn't very fast. It was only like 20 miles per hour or so.
In the parking lot, you got up to
Yeah.
20?
That's what my dad told me to do. He was like, all right, go 15. And I go 15, and I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, all right, now go 20. And I'm like, ugh.
That's a couple $1,000-pound piece of equipment there that you're driving. So,
well, he said that because at first I was only driving like 3 miles per hour around the parking lot.
So if y'all don't know, Xavier's only 14. He's turning 15 next month. He's going to take his driver's learner's test. Hopefully next month we'll have another team driver learning how to drive on the road. So that being said, we want to talk about jiu-jitsu, life, and different things on these podcasts. We're going to kind of see how it goes. So I don't have any questions written, and I'm going to shoot from the hip, and we're going to ask Xavier a bunch of questions. If y'all have any questions in the chat, type them in, and we'll put Xavier on the spot to see him answer some of these questions. So the first simple question, Xavier, is what got you into jiu-jitsu?
Like as far as how it started?
How it started.
Well, when we first learned about jiu-jitsu, it was actually like we went to was it the Georgia International Convention Center? We went there for something else, and we saw these people in gis, and we were like, man, what are these people up to? So we went like one, I don't know what you call them, like the spaces. We went one space over, and we thought we would have had to have paid to get in, but they were just like, no, you can just come in. So we watched, and we thought it looked really cool. So we started looking for places. If we found anything, we would see about going there. And my parents drove by the old gym one day, and they saw that you guys were there, and they thought, all right, well, next Saturday we'll see about going over there and see if the kids want to do it. And so we went over there, we watched, and we were like, okay, yeah, this is pretty cool. We should try and try out a class or something like that. And we did, and that's how we got started. But
what was the event that y'all were at? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Okay. So imagine going to an event and you're beside the first IBJJF tournament you've ever seen, and you go over there, and you can only imagine like there's
it's like
5,000 people in there at least, and then you know, nearly 1,000 competitors probably,
Yeah.
and then plus all the spectators. You see all these guys running around crying. Well, let's back up a little bit. I know a little bit about Xavier's story. So uh, they understood what a gi was, or you called it probably a kimono prior to jiu-jitsu because you done some taekwondo, right?
Yeah.
How much taekwondo did you do?
We did it for about a year. We got up to a red belt, but I mean, it was okay. We didn't really, but it was also like the type of gym we were at. It didn't really. It was more of a money game than anything else. So
And it was also how many hours a day were you at the taekwondo school?
we were there all day because our mom worked there, so we could take it for free. So we were there from the time they opened till the time they closed.
So what? At least 8 hours?
Yeah,
A
at
whole
least.
work day. Well, probably
Well,
longer than that because y'all would do the after
we
school
got
program, right?
yeah. So we got there around uh, is it 9 or 7, and then sometimes we would stay there till what was it? It's like 10:30 was one of the latest classes.
Oh my, 10:30 at night. Y'all were there till 10:30 in the evening.
That was only on Wednesdays
Oh,
though, for like a sparring class.
what time did that class start?
10:30.
It started at 10:30.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! So y'all were there for 14 plus hours on some days.
Yep.
So your
But
mom worked there as like a
she
I
was
don't want
like,
to say a babysitter, but
yeah,
like she was
she was
basically providing childcare.
yeah, she taught in the youngest kids group, or taught like looked after.
So how old were you when y'all started taekwondo?
It's 2019, so I was, what's that? Let's see, 3 years ago, so I was 11.
11. Okay, so and that was the beginning of your martial arts. That's the only martial
Yeah,
arts
that
that
was the
you ever did.
first really sport in general. I never really did sports.
Okay. What about public school? Have you ever been to public school?
Not really. I mean, I think I did some kindergarten, but that was
You
pretty
don't
much
remember
it.
any of that?
No,
Okay.
vaguely do.
So the goal is like to talk about jiu-jitsu, how people got started. So you don't have a whole lot of life experience yet. You only got almost 15 years of life experience. So Taekwondo wasn't that cool because of the school you went to. Taekwondo turns into let's look for more martial arts. And how did jiu-jitsu come up in the conversation? Was that something your mom or dad just thought of, or is it just because y'all seen the jiu-jitsu school up the street?
Well, I think they drove by, they saw you there, and they saw that you guys were still there, and then they came back and they were like, "Hey, do you guys want to ride up here real quick and check this place out?" And we were like, "Yeah, we can do that." So we rode up there. That's how we found it. So they came back and talked to us prior.
Oh yeah. So do you know the time frame between the IBJJF tournament y'all witnessed and to coming to the gym the first time?
I think we I think we were still we might have been like the belt prior to red belt when we uh uh first went to that tournament. But I'm not sure the exact time frame.
Probably not long though. Like
Let's
wasn't a
see.
year or nothing probably.
Nah. Well, no, yeah, it was over a year.
Okay.
Let's see. So we stopped 2019, and I've been doing jiu-jitsu for a year and 8 months now. So that was a couple years.
Yeah. Okay. So now that you've started jujitsu, you've had some decent success with jujitsu. You've had some fun with it. What's your thoughts of it so far? I know that's a super broad question. Like, are you enjoying jujitsu?
Yes.
Easy answer, yes. All right. You enjoy it so much. How often are you here? Usually a week.
um, Depends on if I come in the mornings or not. Usually here at least twice a day.
Okay. So 2 a days usually about 5 days a week.
Yeah.
2 a days, and we'll get some Saturday morning training in 6 days a week, and then we'll cross train or compete sometimes on Sundays. So Usually we're getting in 6 to 7 training days a week. Or you are.
Yeah.
I'm here every day because I work here, but so I'm held to a little different accountability. But no one's forcing you to come here. You still come 6, 7 days a week. So tell us a little bit about your success with jiu-jitsu so far. Well, before we get to success, because let's talk about the failures of jiu-jitsu when you started.
I'm sure it was the same as everybody else. It's like it was very different. I don't really know the best way to explain all the failures I've had because there's a lot. It's just the usual stuff, like troubleshooting a lot of things. I don't really know how to describe it.
What Because I was playing back on some memories on my phone. That's the cool part about iPhone. It kind of shows you the memories over the past. Like, say I took a picture of this day 2 years ago, it'll pop up on my phone and say, you were doing this 2 years ago. I think it was this weekend last year is when you had your bounce back tournament. The tournament prior to that is the one where y'all
Yeah.
just fumbled everything.
That was a good learning experience, though.
So tell me about uh, not doing so hot at that first tournament. What do you remember about that first tournament?
The one where we messed up at, or my very first tournament?
Let's go. Let's go. Very first one first.
Well, I won my first match, but the kid was a weight class below me. Then I had.
Do you remember the weight back then?
I was. I don't remember how much I weighed, but the guy was a weight class below me. The other guy was in my weight class, and he ended up beating me. I think that was because no, that was the next one. Um, I think I'd only been in jiu-jitsu for like 6 months at that point. He'd been training almost a year, and also I didn't have a lot of experience with competing in general. And I mean, your first tournament's always a good learning experience. I mean, you can't really be expected to win your first tournament just because. I mean, you can practice and practice and practice for the speed, but it's just until you get there, you're not going to be able to like feel it.
Yeah. Like I tell people that all the time in the gym. Like competition speed and training speed are two completely different things. And to replicate competition speed in the training room, you can do it, but without the nerves, without the environment, it's very hard. It don't really. It's very hard to replicate.
Yeah.
So that first tournament you went to, you think you've been training about 6 months at a time? All right. We had a guy compete yesterday. We just had a tournament yesterday, and well, speaking of the guy who just jumped in the chat, Devin, I'm going to name drop you here. Devin competed yesterday for the first time, and he's been training for maybe 2 months, a month and a half. And he was asking me, what should I jump in and compete? And what's your thoughts on that, Xavier? Month and a half in, 2 months in, should you jump in and compete?
Um, I mean, I think you should. It's competing definitely. Oh, sorry. Competing definitely helps you progress a lot faster, so it's good to do tournaments as soon as possible. I could have done a tournament on my first week of jiu-jitsu, but I was like, I don't even know I didn't know, I barely even knew the positions, and I didn't really have any grappling experience, so we chose to wait until the next one.
So Devin, for example, he's been competing. He's been training a month and a half, maybe 2 months, and we've been kind of focusing on, with him just the positions and the goals within the positions. Like he knows he needs to pass the guard, but that's all he knows. I need to pass the guard. So uh, for y'all that are watching this and might not know what passing the guard is, it means just get past their legs and try to get chest to chest. and there's moves and techniques and tactics you can do to do that. But a month and a half in, you don't know any of those things. So you're just thinking, I need to get chest to chest. Um, so if you could do it all over again, do you think you would compete within that 2 month window?
What, the one that I had on the first that I could have competed at the
Well,
first week?
yeah. Would you compete that first week or?
I mean, looking back on it, I think I should have tried to, but I mean, at the time, I was just kind of like, well, I guess I'll just wait till I have more experience. That way, I actually know what I'm doing. But that kind of all goes out the window in your first tournament. Like, and you'll hear that said a lot, that they kind of, everything goes out the window and they're just no game plan, just kind of just get going for whatever they've got.
What we're doing right here, just shooting from the
Yeah.
hip. See how it goes. So I'm just assuming here, if you would have competed in your first 2 weeks, you probably would have got demolished.
I probably would have.
How do you think that would have impacted you now? Do you think you would have shown back up the following day, or do you think it would have been like just?
I think
just
I was
now. That was too much.
Too new for it to really bother me. I think I still would have came back. I don't know what outcome that would have had. I mean, we can only really guess. But
well, I can. I'm going to brag on you a little bit because I can do that. I don't expect you to brag on yourself, not unless you want to. You want to brag on yourself?
No, I don't want to do that.
Xavier's not going to brag on himself, so I'm going to brag for him. I'm pretty sure if you would have got demolished that first week, you would have came back. If I had to guess, probably a little hungrier than you left the week prior.
Yeah.
And that's what Devin said. When I asked Devin, I said, well, which he did fine. He did go a little airborne. He tried to, the takedown he knows, he tried to implement a collar drag style takedown that he knows. And the second he went to implement his collar drag, he kind of telegraphed it a little, and his opponent saw that and exploited it and off balanced him at the same time. So next thing you know, Devin's feet right out from up under him. But so I asked Devin afterwards, I said, well, what'd you think about that? He said, this was his response. I loved it. That was a blast. So that's the kind of.
That's awesome.
That's the mentality you need, especially going in. Now, if Devin had 8 months of training experience, he jumped in that, went airborne, got swept off his feet the way it did. He would probably be down on his luck, a little upset with himself. I've been training hard for 8 months to prepare for this. And that's the beauty of it. That mentality of just wanting to learn and improve and get better. So you've experienced some wins, you've experienced some losses. How did those losses feel? Did it make you want to just bounce back and work harder, or were they hard to stomach? And what do you do to prepare for those in the future?
When I first had them, like the day of, I was kind of bummed out. I was like, I mean, but when the next week came, I was hungry to get back into it, to train harder so that I could win the next one.
Okay. Scholar said my mic is quiet and yours is doing good. All right. Well, we're just winging it, so we'll see what happens. We're just trying to fix some things as we go.
Well, I'm glad this mic is quiet because I feel like I'm quiet right now.
Xavier don't want to be the loud one, so he's trying, or he wants to be louder because he feels like it's too quiet. So those losses made you hungrier, want to get back and want to learn more.
I mean, it stung a little at first, but definitely after, a day or two, it was like, all right, I'm hungry again to get back to training.
Okay. So, I don't know why that's going like that, Devin. You're saying our microphones are, one of them's really loud, one of them's really quiet. But we've already started, so we're not going to stop. So, let's talk about losses and wins and accomplishments. The losses, of course, will fuel you. What about some of the accomplishments, some of the wins?
I mean,
Fix this now. At least keep it about that distance. Let's see if that helps it.
um, those will fuel you too, but it's important that you don't, uh, like get too overconfident with yourself after you've won. Because even though I've won a good bit of my tournaments, I still don't go into the next one thinking, all right, well, I've won all these. I'm gonna, come in here and destroy everybody. I always, which this is what I've talked with my dad about, that I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna, you know, train hard regardless of who they are or how long they've been training, whatever. And that's how I've been able to win so many. I think is because that's the approach I've taken.
No, no underestimating.
Nope.
I remember those first couple tournaments. We've already started generating a little bit of success with your competition record. When we went, you kind of let off the gas a little bit. I can't remember if that was tournament 2 or tournament 3. You were doing good and you were winning, and you had I want to say it was an armbar. You had a good submission on somebody, and you're backing off the gas a little bit. And I know that we said something to you a little bit about it, about keep pushing forward, which, that being said, Xavier didn't want to break someone's arm. Understandable. I mean, they're teenagers, but at the same time, y'all were in a competition setting to where sometimes that, hopefully not, but sometimes that's required to get a win if they're not going to tap.
Right.
Has that changed any since then? Do you think you still entering a tournament now? Would you have that killer instinct or back off the gas?
I mean, I don't want to hurt them, but the thing is that if they're not gonna tap to it, I shouldn't be held responsible for them not tapping to it. I don't want to hurt them, but I've talked with my dad about it. He says you can shake their hand afterwards,
Yeah,
but until then, go.
it's go time. So, all right, speaking of some success, what year is it? 2022 Pan Am champion, Xavier Bond here. You're not going to say that part. Uh, Tell us about Pan Am's a little bit and make it the long form. Don't just say, went down there, did good and win. Tell us a little bit about the drive down, the weight cut, the experience, the whole 9 yards.
Well, it like week prior, I was starting to feel nervous. It was you know, I'm grateful for it. Everybody wanted me to do good, and they were all going to be watching me. But at the same time, it was a little nerve wracking because it's like I wanted to do good for everybody, and it was so. I mean, the week prior was a little stressful. I was having to watch what I was eating, um, trying to keep my mental game under control. Still train hard, but not too hard that I injured myself. So there was a lot that went into it. I had to pretty much eat nothing but fruits and vegetables and fish for days.
You said try not to injure yourself, but you had a small injury going into the tournament. What was that?
That was a dislocated finger, which we relocated, and then
For y'all wondering, his finger looked like that. It was more than dislocated. It was pointing east and west.
yeah. So we basically just threw some tape over it during the tournament.
How many weeks was that prior?
I think that was not. Let's see.
Or did we have one local tournament before that one? Before the injury?
It was. Yeah, we did have one local before that. So it might have been 5 weeks ago.
Yeah, or 5 weeks between the injury and Pans.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was. Yeah, that's right. Because you only had about 3 weeks before the local tournament once you dislocated your finger.
Yeah.
Then Pans was what, 2 weekends after the
Yeah.
Local tournament. So, me, Xavier's parents, Mark and Liz, and Xavier, we drove down to Kissimmee, Florida for Pans. And tell us about your diet the last 2 days.
So we started the drive down there, and I don't think I ate a whole lot on the way. I had some watermelon and some other fruit, but I didn't eat a whole lot. We got down there, and I think it was the night before we rented a hotel or motel. Which one was it? I can't remember now.
I can't remember either.
We stayed at a location. Then we went to get some Chinese, but all I got was like sushi. So, and because just in case I had to cut weight prior, I wasn't able to have a lot of salt. So it was just sushi with no soy sauce or anything. Just sushi.
But it wasn't bad.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't bad. It was still good.
Xavier was stressing a little bit about his weight on the way down, and it's what, pound or two over? Not much. So
Yeah.
The last 24, 48 hours going into the tournament, Xavier's like, I can only eat fruit, no sodium, no water. I'm just gonna live off watermelon for 2 days because I gotta make sure I'm good when I weigh in. By the time we finally got to the tournament, we did eat sushi.
Yeah.
Or I had salt on my food and a Coke. Xavier drank like
sushi and water.
And ate sushi, no sodium at all. And
yep.
We were what, 2 pounds under?
I think finally. Yeah. So I had to weigh like 152.6, and like the day of the tournament when I went to weigh in, I was like 146. Yeah, so I was a lot better off than I thought I was going to be.
So we get in, which that was battle number one. It's always battle number one to make weight. Get down there, we made weight. Had to be under 52.6, well under. How many matches did you have?
I had 2 matches.
And the first one was against a Mongolian kid.
Yeah.
That was
pretty tall guy.
Like 6'4". Tell us about that match. Tell us what you remember about that match.
Well, at first, I'm not gonna lie, I was really nervous because I was like, man, this guy, like when we were in the what do they call it? The waiting area. Yeah, bullpen. Yeah. I was I look at that guy and I was like, man, this guy, he's too big to be in my weight bracket. I don't have to worry about him. Sure enough, we both walk over there and I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy is pretty tall. And but I wasn't sure if I was actually going to win that one or not, but then I had to remember to get out of my own head and focus on what I had to do. And which it turned out that he was going to be a lot better at takedowns than I was expecting. So but I mean, it was tough.
Scrambled pretty hard.
Yeah.
Trying to remember the match. I know you got under him one time, put him down. He got back up. It didn't count. Didn't establish control. And he was able to put you down once, I think.
Yeah, but I was able to scramble back up.
To what position? That's what won you the match.
I scrambled up, and then he was still trying to hold down onto my legs to keep me from slipping out, and I slipped out and came around his back there at the end.
Got to the back. Yep. That's right. So you won that one, I'm assuming, by 4 points, a back take.
I think it was...
I don't know the points. I'm just guessing.
I can't remember.
But essentially,
we still would have won anyways, whether he had taken me down or not. But I wasn't going to concede regardless.
That's right. We never concede.
That's right. I think I might have been 8 or 6, somewhere between there.
So pretty good, significant score. 6 or 8 points, but ultimately it was a back take that won the match.
What secured it.
Probably the toughest kid in the bracket for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely the biggest kid in the bracket.
Yeah.
So that match is over. Now we're going into the finals.
It was against a Soul Fighter kid, which
They have a
uh,
pretty big presence in Florida,
yeah,
North Florida, Georgia,
Brandon was telling
Central
us
area.
about him, or about Soul Fighters, that they were a pretty good school. So I was already going into it. I was having I guess, regard for him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but after the first match, the nerves kind of settled, and I was able to, you know, focus a lot easier. So going into that next match, I was a lot more comfortable with where I was, and he was also like my height. He was about my build too.
Yeah, y'all are pretty well
Yeah,
sized equally. So,
but
what do you remember about that kid? You remember his story?
um, he was
'Cause I remember a little bit what Mama said, what his mom told us. That was his like
this is
first or second tournament.
yeah. They said it was like his second tournament, but he had been training. I think he said
I think a couple years. I think
yeah,
COVID put them out,
yeah.
if I remember
They've been
right.
training like I can't remember the exact amount of years, but he'd been training a little while.
They were training. Mom told us, the opponent's mom told us that they were training prior to COVID. Of course, the lockdown and everything put them out to where they couldn't train for a while. After COVID, came back, started training, and I think this was his second tournament. Second tournament, he made it to Pan Am's finals, which is pretty impressive. So, shout out to that kid. Hopefully, he sticks at it. He'll do pretty good.
Yeah.
So, gold medal, Pan Am's champion 2022. What did you do to celebrate?
Let's see. After we left, we ended up getting Italian, so
The
pasta.
best Italian food I think I've ever eaten. It
Was it
was,
spaghetti carbonara?
yeah. So, or I can't remember what kind of noodles it was. Yeah, but carbonara. How do I say it?
Carbonara,
Carbonara.
I think.
Spaghetti with bacon in it, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was
Absolutely
good.
loved it. So, do you remember your weight 1 week afterwards?
I don't think I checked.
I remember it.
I was like, I don't care. What's the use in checking?
No need for a week at least.
Yeah, because I think the next one was like a Naga or AGF, so it didn't really matter what my weight was because I would have had to cut below was it 145 or something like that,
That's too low.
or it might have even been 140 at one of them. I don't know.
We're staying in that 150 range at the moment.
Yeah.
Seeing how much muscle mass you put on. So, all right. So we competed yesterday. This is the first tournament in your year and a half that we've been training. That we all competed in it. We had the whole school go, good competition set up, good team. We had 17 people compete yesterday, and you didn't.
I know.
So,
That was miserable.
how was it sitting on the sideline watching all your friends and students and team members compete?
I mean, I think it was a good experience to uh like see it from that perspective, in the coach's seat. It's it's still like there's still nerves involved with being the coach, obviously. But it was a little bit different. Like when you're competing, like it's up to you, but when you're coaching, you have to uh coach them to win, and it's like the hardest part is like finding the right words in the littlest amount of time to where it makes sense instead of saying, hey, put your arm here so this doesn't happen while you shoot for this so that you can move to this position. And it's like,
It's pretty hard to do.
it is.
So, with that being said, it was your first tournament as a coach. The whole tournament, of course, you go cheer and
Yeah.
coach on your teammates every tournament we go to. But this was one of the first ones where you had to, or not one of the first ones, the first one,
Yeah.
where you had to sit back the entire time. So the word choosing in your coaching strategy matters.
Yeah. It's very difficult, but I feel like it's with competing as the competitor. once you do it enough, you'll get used to it and comfortable doing it.
So it's funny. Like I make jokes about it all the time. I'm making jokes of a lot of our teammates too. Like, so get over it if this offends you. We're just joking around here.
Yeah, don't worry about it. He comes up with jokes about me all the time.
Yeah, deal with it. If as a competitor, Xavier, you're in there fighting, getting after it. You got 2 minutes left in the match. Is me yelling, Xavier, fight? Is that helping you?
Not really. It's like I know that.
Do you ever want to just turn around and yell, I am fighting?
I don't think you've ever told me that, so I don't really have a reason to.
No, I'm picking on all of our students. Yesterday, I was sitting there screaming, coaching, giving instruction, and then there's 10 people behind me yelling, push harder, fight. And it's like, I just want to turn around and be like, he knows. They know to keep pushing, you know. So I'm just picking on y'all. It's funny, but
I like that's less of coaching and more of just like encouragement.
Yeah, cheerleading.
Yeah.
And that's what me and Nikki has had that conversation before. She was like, she said, I'm not a coach, I'm a cheerleader, you know, and a lot of teammates are cheerleaders. Like they just want to stand back and yell and encourage and pump you up. And rightfully so, they should. But I mean, sometimes in a tournament setting, it's it's hard for the student or competitor to hear instruction when there's so much noise.
Yeah.
And tunnel vision wise, do you ever suffer from the tunnel vision while you're competing, or do you hear me and your dad pretty good?
I mean, I don't really suffer from that as much anymore. I mean, sure, like mid takedown and mid, I would say guard pass, but guard pass chain, I guess, like chaining all of them together. When I'm in the middle of that, I can't hear as much.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually whenever I'm like, I've got the knee cut, but I'm kind of like sitting there in that position waiting for them to open up for me to secure.
Mm-hmm.
There, I can hear you. I can hear you in a lot of other positions.
So once you get into more of a stationary, secured position,
yeah,
the ears open up a little more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's understandable. Like in the midst of the scrimmages or scrambles, it's hard to listen to what they're saying. And talking about coaching some, you know, the preparation is done before the match. So a lot of the responsibility on the coach when y'all are competing, and this is in my opinion, is you should have already done all the prerequisite stuff going into the tournament.
Right.
You should make sure your cardio is on point. Make sure you get ample of training hours. I mean, as a kid, as much as you can. You know, you're a little different scenario because you're a homeschool kid. You're allowed to train more than most. But you need to focus on your nutrition. You need to focus on, you know, the training hours. You need to focus on your cardio. The coach, when it comes to tournament day, needs to be able to talk you down so that you're not so hyped for no reason, because it's no different than training every day. You go in, you fight and wrestle and grapple with your friends every single day. And when people come cross train, what's different from that into a tournament setting is you're still doing the same job, it's just in a different environment. So I really try to focus on my goal is talking them down some, letting them know it's no different than a training day, and to help you stay on task. You know, at times I should be passing this guard or I should be escaping. Right. When you're pinned, if someone's pinned, you know I should be escaping. Me screaming, escape, 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 you know, sometimes isn't accomplishing anything. Now, you know, of course, I can yell things to encourage the escape, like get an elbow in, get a knee in.
Well, that would be the simplest way to, coach somebody is escape, but you're not gonna how,
Yeah, exactly. Skylar responded in the chat. I'm X's cheerleader, and Mark said it very well. You win together and lose together. Absolutely, and that's part of like I know it's a individual sport. You're out there with your
Yeah.
opponent, but there's something really rewarding feeling when you're going out there with a whole team.
Yeah.
How was that for you? Not not getting a chance to be able to compete this time, but getting to watch your teammates' failures and successes. So talk about the failures first. How did that feel as an outsider watching them compete?
I mean, it was upsetting. I mean, I wanted everybody to do good, especially since I wasn't going to be there to compete. Like, usually when you compete, like, you feel so much nerves that once you compete and get done, you're so relieved that you don't really feel the nervousness for your teammates as much, just because you're relieved that you're done with it. But now that I had to feel nervous for my teammates as well the whole way through, it was definitely different. I mean, it's kind of hard to describe. I did enjoy coaching though.
Yeah. Now, what about uh, their successes? How did that feel as in a coach's role?
It felt oddly like, I'm just going to use the word rewarding,
Yeah.
because it's like they won, but you were there with them when they won.
Yeah.
So, like, you're happy for them,
And it's really cool at
especially to watch them win.
and it's really cool at the kid level. Like
Yeah.
it, there's just something about sitting there in the coach's chair or right there on the sideline, even being the cheerleader for a young kid. And yesterday, I think the youngest competitor we had was 6, and our oldest competitor was is in the 40s yesterday. So we had from 6 years old up to 40s competing yesterday. But there's just something special about watching a kid win
Yeah.
and their face light up, and you're just there on the sideline cheering them on.
Yeah.
It's pretty good, rewarding. So let's talk about your brother a little bit yesterday. First tournament for him.
Now,
How many matches did he have?
I think it was 2.
2 in the gi, right?
Yep.
Talk about the
He
first match.
um in the first match, was it a Gracie Baja kid? He went up against him. He ended up losing that match. But I mean,
I was on the other side of the mat coaching. I coaching another student at the time, so I only got pieces of it. So give me some detail on that match, what you remember.
um Nicholas did good. I don't think he got the takedown. I think the kid, can't remember if he pulled guard or took down Nicholas. But Nicholas ended up on the ground. And I think the kid finished it with an arm bar, I'm pretty sure.
So,
I don't remember what the score was.
all right, so Nicholas just experienced a loss.
Yeah.
First tournament he decided because he's been one that's been kind of like, ooh, I don't know if I'll
Yeah.
ever compete or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so first tournament, first match, experience a loss. Did you talk to him in between matches how he felt then?
I didn't, because my dad was.
Good.
So I was gonna, let him say what needed to be said. And
I want to stop you right there and tell you that that's a sign of maturity there. Like, let your dad handle the dad business and coaching business, and then because you standing over your dad's shoulder saying, "Yeah, Nicholas, yeah, Nicholas," it probably wouldn't have helped anything. If not,
No.
if anything, it probably would have hurt.
Right.
So let dad step up, be the dad role, be the coach role. Which your dad's a great coach, by the way. He does really good coaching. So there's no sense in adding the extra pressure on Nicholas
Right.
going into match 2. What about match 2?
Match 2, Nicholas, I'm pretty sure he took the kid down, and then it was only like 10 seconds.
I know this one play by play, so keep going. I want to hear your perspective there.
I think he took him down. He was kind of behind the monitor when he did it, so I didn't really see. They ended up on the ground, and he finished with the Kimura. I'm pretty sure it was a Kimura or Americana.
It was. I was on the other side coaching, So, but I had a downtime between matches, so I'm standing
Right.
on the other side of the mat, being able to look across the mat, watch Nicholas go, and his opponent does kind of a half-hearted guard pull. So Nicholas hits just a knee tap and a knee cut at the same time, passes immediately straight inside control, straight into the arm lock finish. I couldn't see from my perspective if it was Americana or Kimura, but
I think they said it was a Kimura.
so he hits the Kimura, and so I'm facing Nicholas's back. He passes immediately, top side control, hits the Kimura, and then the clock stops, and it was 14 seconds total.
Nice.
So first tournament, first match, goes out there, loses. I'm sure anxiety and nerves are through the roof. And then second match, blast through it, side control, arm lock, finish. Fastest submission of the weekend.
Yeah, I was very relieved.
Yeah. Yeah.
And happy at the same time. Yeah, I can only imagine how you felt.
You're carrying some of his nerves.
Yeah, I was. Especially, I think it was more so just because he's my brother. But I wanted him to do good. But
why did you want him to do good?
I mean, I want everybody to do good. I mean, he's my brother. I want him to succeed in everything he does. I don't wish anything bad for anyone. But I mean, someone has to win and someone has to lose, so it's kind of like, well, I want him to win more.
So I want my brother to win.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's part of life. There's going to be wins and there's going to be losses. And life brings wins and losses. So we were kind of talking about this before on camera. Before we jumped into this, me and Xavier were kind of just shooting around the idea of what to talk about and how to make this thing go. And I was like, we're just going to shoot from the hip, see how it goes. And
yeah, we had every bit of like 2 minutes preparation. So
so obviously we can tell if the microphones are a little goofy with the volume that we didn't prepare too much. But Xavier started talking about jiu-jitsu being a simulation of life.
Yeah.
So given Nicholas's scenario here, first tournament, anxiety through the roof, stress through the roof, gets beat up first match. I'm sure I can only imagine how he feels. He's probably, nervous, upset, devastated. For some reason, the kids always feel, well, I don't want to say kids, because adults as well. You feel disappointed for some reason when you lose and your team's there watching you. But I want to correct what I'm saying there. Like, I want to really put it in context. Like, disappointed, I don't know if that's the right term or not, but you should never feel okay with losing. And I see that a lot in these local tournaments.
But with that being said, you shouldn't feel devastated.
Yeah, you shouldn't feel devastated to lose. It's just part of life. You shouldn't feel okay with losing. Yeah. If you feel okay with losing, that's another big problem.
Yeah.
So you can only imagine the roller coaster of emotions and nerves Nicholas is going through. But whatever Mark said, I'm sure fixed it or settled the storm or pumped Nicholas back up to come out there and get the fastest submission of the weekend. So how does jiu-jitsu simulate life to you?
Well, it's let's see. I'm trying to figure out how to word it. I mean, there's definitely a lot of struggle in both. You win and lose in both. It's like you learn from your mistakes in jiu-jitsu just like you do in life. You learn what you're comfortable with doing, what you're good at, how you can implement it into other things. Like there are small victories and there are big victories. Big victory would be like winning a tournament, or I don't know, uh, getting a car or a job that you want. Um, some loss would be like uh, the loss of a family member. I mean, they do relate in a lot of ways, uh, which is why I feel like I've matured a lot more since I've done jujitsu than prior,
Okay.
just because they relate to each other a lot. Now, there's obviously more to lose in life than there is in jiu-jitsu. I mean, you can always get back up and dust off and then keep going in jiu-jitsu.
In the grand scheme of it, it's still
Yeah.
just a sport or game.
Which you can do in the same thing in life, but sometimes those blows are a little bit harder to come back from.
Yeah, those life losses and struggles are bigger than jiu-jitsu losses. And
Yeah.
as trying to keep that in perspective oftentimes is that it is still just a game. It's just a sport we play. We take it a little deeper than just a game or
Yeah.
sport we play. I can
We live
confidently
and breathe
say
it.
it's part of your life now.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely part of my life. I decided to quit an entire career to pursue jiu-jitsu. So
Well, that wasn't the only reason, though.
yeah, but it's the
Majority
when the
of the reasons.
scales start to tip, career jiu-jitsu and jiu-jitsu seems to be more significant than the career. Sometimes it's time to balance those scales back out a little bit, or just go ahead and kick that scale over and jump head in. That's what I did. So, well, that's a pretty mature answer by you. Um, uh, but that's the beauty of sports and athletics and adversity. It does help you prepare for life some. And of course, that's the, I guess, the bad part of it. Well, I don't even want to say bad part. I'd almost say the beautiful part of it is the adversity we face in life. You can dust off or let it fold you, and it's tough. So I'm gonna hit you with some random questions. Where I don't know how long we've been going. We've been going for a while now.
Yeah, about almost an hour.
Has it been? Yeah, it started at 4:15, so we're right at an hour. Tea or coffee?
Tea. I don't drink coffee
Why don't you drink coffee?
because my dad won't let me.
This is for old people, I think.
Yeah, it is. It is for old
I
people.
like tea better. Chocolate, vanilla.
Chocolate. I don't know why. It just tastes better. Spring or fall.
This is one that's been messing people up. This was a hard one.
Yeah, I mean, you got to rake the leaves in the fall, but you also got to cut your grass in the spring.
That's true. Well, I'll give you an easy one. Summer or winter?
Well, since we live here, summer.
Okay. Gi or no gi?
Uh, I don't know. I like them both a lot. They're both, well, they're both jujitsu. They are different. In gi, it's a lot harder to slip things. In no gi, it's a lot easier. But it's also a lot harder to control people in no gi versus gi. They're different. But they're both jiu-jitsu. I mean, I like them both. It's kind of hard to choose.
You can't decide.
Nah,
Jiu-jitsu wins.
jiu-jitsu.
Guard pull or takedown?
Takedown.
All right. So you prefer to wrestle more than guard pull?
Yeah.
Okay.
Initially,
where do you think that comes from?
Initially it was I used to pull guard more than I wrestled, and I realized that I could go ahead and start off the match ahead if I could just take him down. I could already have 2 points. So I started working on wrestling a lot, and my guard has suffered a little bit, which is I'm probably gonna. I keep saying it, but I do need to do it. I need to work on guard more, but really focus on trying to control and shoot different things from guard, and not just kind of start there. Yeah. Like advance without. I'm not gonna say not wrestle up, but not having that always as my first option, especially when I'm trying to work it. Like in a tournament, yeah, but not while I'm trying to work guard.
So you're gonna just sit to your butt a lot in the next couple of weeks
I'm gonna
in
try to.
training. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even in training, it's hard to
Yeah, because
do
it's
that.
like, wait, I can just stand up. Let me do that.
So where do you think the your wrestling? I don't want to say talent, but I do want to say talent. You got pretty good wrestling. Where do you think that comes from in our school? Since I'm
I,
not a wrestler.
well, I mean, some of it is you. Most of it is probably Tyler and Matt.
Yeah, it's like because I'm in the same boat. I was the same way. Like my wrestling felt deficient. So about a year ago, I texted Tyler and I told him, I said, I will never pull guard against you ever again, Tyler. It's not going to happen. I'm not
I
going to pull
mean,
guard. I'm going to get put on my butt time and time and time again until I can finally start putting you down. It's like
it hurts, but it's
sometimes you got to learn the hard way.
yeah.
So I'm pretty proud of the wrestling we have in our school for not having, you know, grown up in a wrestling program. We got a handful of guys that wrestle with us that have taught us tricks and tactics and goals from wrestling over the past couple of years. It's really helped us a lot. So I'm pretty proud of those guys and the wrestling we do here. All right. So we're going to start wrapping this thing up, but I'm going to put you on the spot for a teenager wanting to start jujitsu. We can even say an adult too. I mean, for someone wanting to start, but really think of it from a teenager's perspective. Someone wanting to start jujitsu, what kind of advice would you give them?
I mean, that's hard because not everybody takes things the same way. Everybody's different. That's with coaching, which is why coaching is difficult. But it's the best advice I could give anybody is just like we talked about earlier, dust off and keep going. I mean, it is hard sometimes and it sounds like, well, yeah, like but that's what you got to do. You just got to dust off and keep going. I mean, you're not going to you can't just say, well, I'm just not going to live anymore. Well, you can say that, but that's not right. Yeah. You shouldn't just give up because if you give up, then you have lost. You only lose when you give up. If you keep going, eventually, it might take a little while, but you're going to succeed in what you're doing. If you give it, as long as you give it enough time and enough work, you'll get there eventually. You can't just expect to, you know, train jujitsu once a year and then, expect to be a black belt in, 3 years.
Right.
It just doesn't work like that. You have to, be committed to what you're doing and then practice it. But that advice can be given to really anybody, except for maybe a kid, because they're not really going to understand.
Yeah. Well, no, I think you're absolutely right. That was a perfect answer. And the way there's one particular kid that performed really well this weekend, Lathan. And Lathan has been putting in a lot of extra work. We've been meeting at different times to get some extra work in on Lathan's behalf. And a couple of weeks ago when we were working, I made a comment to him about running the race, right? And trying to put it in a kid's perspective to where they would understand that exactly what you're saying. I said, Lathan, when you're running your race, when do you stop? And he looks at me and was like, well, when you're done.
That's the right
And I
answer.
said, exactly, Lathan. So you run the race until you're done with the race. So, you may have to pace yourself in that race. This race may be a sprint. This race may be a marathon. But either way, there's a start line and there's a finish line. And you don't quit until you cross over the finish line.
Right.
And he jumped on it. He responded to that, me telling him that immediately.
Now, was this prior to the tournament, or was this?
This was a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I told him this probably about a month ago now, 3 weeks ago, maybe a month. And I told him that you just got to run your race, and
Right.
I wanted to portray exactly what you just said, but in a much simpler form for a 6, 7, 8 year old to understand, what it takes to get some successful jujitsu. And so I asked Lathan, I said, when do you quit in a race? He said, when I'm done. Well said, Lathan. So shout out to Lathan for winning gold this weekend. He looked very dominant. Everybody looked really, really good, but I'm very proud of the first time competitors because it's not easy jumping out there. And some of these first time competitors, Lathan specifically, went out there and worked really, really hard and done really, really good. And then, I mean, that being said, we had some seasoned competitors who've been battling some adversity to go out and push hard. I'm proud of everybody, but I like to see these kids that are putting in the extra work, the hard work, and really focusing, going out and living out their dreams is pretty cool. Cooler for the parents to support it as much as they do. All right. Any last minute advice to make our jiu-jitsu better?
Wrestle.
More wrestling. All right. That's the conclusion of episode 1. Let's call that Xavier. We went for 1 hour and 2 minutes. We'll figure out this microphone issue, figure out how we can make the sound better. But we're new podcasters, so
Yeah.
the next episode I'm gonna have it fixed. I wanted to run one more test one before we done a good one, and that's why I figured we'd go live and do a test one like this because me and Brian's gonna do the first pre-recorded one, and it's got to be pre-recorded because I got to be prepared to edit out everything ugly Brian says. I can't let him get me kicked off the internet.
Tea or coffee, Brian? Beer.
Yeah, that's Brian. All right, y'all. See you. In stream. That sounds